So part of the problem here, we have no buffer between the industrial and the residential right there.
We are right on the border.
I mean, there is nothing between the two to buffer
Correct.
it. So that's just a problem.
That's an existing
It is not
problem.
before us today, but
Do we require buffer?
What type of buffer? They actually, and Alice can share that with you. They actually do things to try to mitigate the noise with the rocks and where they actually do
Yes,
the
sir.
actual storing and crushing of the rocks on the site. That's about the extent of the buffering that we can probably do.
Yeah, that was the information that I was going to provide next. Is the
yes, please.
Okay. They've submitted their noise mitigation plan, which Mr. Dillard had referred to earlier. They do have they're going to use hay bales to stack up as an additional barrier between the rock crusher and the outside sites. They are also purposely placing the stockpile there between the rock crusher and the residential properties for the stockpile itself to serve as a sound buffer. With regards to the emissions, the type of rock crusher that they used, as I said, has water controls on it, and they also will be using tarps and other water to suppress the particle emissions, as well as the plan there states, which is going to be part of the stipulations, is that they must follow the submitted plans. The plans state that if the wind is blowing at 15 miles an hour in the direction of the residential properties, they will not operate.
Is that a new?
That's what's in their mitigation plan. I don't know if that was an existing, but it's related to the rock crushing activity, so it's part of their permit.
Does anything in the mitigation plan address the pile of, I guess, dust that would that after the sprinkler system goes and then it dries? One of the neighbors described that pile of dust drying and then blowing.
Yes, we would be putting a sprinkler system as needed. Dust accrues.
I think we're out of order.
You're out of order. But he has
sorry.
submitted that he will have a sprinkler on the actual piles, and those sprinklers will be going at all times while they're there.
Until they're removed?
They will just go during the day, if it's my understanding. They'll just be going during the day while.
I know, I'm afraid we're gonna have to either vote to go out of order, or we're gonna.
Call up who you want to speak.
Yeah, I'm gonna continue addressing Ms. Carrera right now, and perhaps if the board wants to invite any of the residents back up to speak again, we can go there. But for now, as far as you know,
So my understanding are the plans that are submitted are associated with the rock crushing. Those activities perhaps may not have been done in the past, but when they do the rock crushing, they will be required.
okay. And you also said that earlier that the decibel levels, absent the rock crusher, were still very high?
Yes,
So that's something that would continue regardless?
yes.
Okay. From the traffic noise?
Just from the traffic and the other industrial activities, the ongoing industrial activities of the area.
Okay. All right, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Ms. Carrera?
Miss,
Go ahead, no? All right, thank you so much.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I understand that I don't know if you have any more questions for me. I'm ready to move forward.
Okay, we had rebuttal. Okay,
What's
sorry.
the opposition?
I think we were still hearing from anyone present who was in opposition. So is there anybody else in opposition who would like to come forward and speak? Yes.
My name is Ilya, I-L-I-A. The last name is C-I-R-C-U, Chirku. I live on Midway Avenue from 1980. I work from 1982 when I came to this country. In 1985, we opened the business. It never got problem until now, recently. What they say, with the sprinkles is wrong. Everything what I hear is not fair. Mr. Ron Webb, before he come in my shop, when he was city council, they crushed concrete. When he saw it, he called somebody, the city, in 25 minutes, they shut them down. Because there's no way to crush concrete in front of my house. You're talking about like here to, I don't know, maybe 80 feet. You know, it's not fair for nobody, I don't think. I think you all need come in the area to see what's going on before you all approve it. You know, this is wrong, is very wrong, what city done it to us, you know. It's beautiful, you know. I'm sure you know him, you try help him, he ruin us, you know, ruin my life, you're talking about, you know, in my family life. Every single morning, I have to wash my cars. You all have to come in the afternoon and put your car over here in my yard and come the morning and see. They don't have to crush concrete. The wind when blow is dust in my house. I got a nice house and inside is very clean. I'm not trashy, man. I like my house. It's not the best house, but it's nice. You all can come and see it. It's not, you know, that is wrong for the city to leave somebody to do this, to crush concrete, you know. It's very wrong. And nobody want to do nothing. It's sad, it's very sad, you know. And Rolando is right. Rolando's girlfriend died. He forgot to tell you, died because this crashing, not this, before when they crashed. They died. She was in the hospital, she died. He can tell you, you know. And I think it's wrong for some of them, you all, to say yes, because you all know the owner, and it's true, because he worked for the city. You all can say, man, I don't know the guy. You all know him, you know. And it's wrong.
I've never met him before.
I know, I'm not saying you. It's somebody else in the meeting, well, I know, you know. It's wrong. It's very wrong, I think. I think you all need drive. Right now, if you go on Midway Street, it's beautiful. It's broke the streets, the trucks, the house shake when 50 tons, the concrete and truck. This is something, you know. And I don't got nothing against the man. I like somebody to be over here next to me. That hey, I don't want to live like this. This is no life for nobody, you know. I don't think it's right, you know. I'm a good businessman. I never got problem with nobody. Y'all can check me in the Better Business Bureau. I'm 5 stars in the business. I never got problem with nobody until now. You know, I think it's not fair. It's wrong for y'all to sign it to crush concrete in the city. Not for him, for anybody in the city.
Okay,
You know?
thank you, Mr. Chiku. Thank you. Is there anybody who has any questions for Mr. Chiku or comments for him? All right. Thank you for.
Thank you.
That was very helpful. Is there anybody else here who cares to speak in opposition?
Yes, I'm Charles Chirico, their kid. I live at 2410 Devon Street, right behind my dad's business and Rolando. And I get the dust that comes flying over there, and it is pretty noisy. I think y'all should have it crushed in front of y'all's house so y'all can understand where we're coming from. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Chiku?
I have a question.
Okay, Mr. Colvin.
And you live there?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a question between the regular construction and the rock crusher. Do you get as much on the cars in the house during regular days, or is that just when the unit's running?
It's always dusty from that
Even
stuff.
with the unit?
Even when cars are running down the street.
Right.
Man, look, dude, come over there, sit in one of their driveway
I got you.
on a windy day.
Right.
20 minutes later, your car's going to be covered in dust
With the
from
rock
coming over
crusher-
there at the rock place.
With the rock crusher not working?
Yeah, with it not
Okay.
running.
Okay. Gotcha.
Or,
See,
or he can move it to your house, man. It's whatever, dude.
See, what Executive Director was saying, though, by use of right, he has use of right to do the construction. He's here today for the rock crusher. So the problem is, you're still gonna have that dust even with the use of rights of the construction.
Probably so, but
Right.
won't you come over there and let and see what happens?
I know that area.
you know it, then you should know what's going on over there,
That's not
right?
necessary. I mean, he's just asking you a question.
And
He's
I'm just
entitled to
answering
that.
a question.
But respectfully.
Y'all are just kind of trying to beat around the bush so y'all can give this dude a temporary thing. My life is on the line. I have to breathe
Sir,
stuff.
you have
My
no
daughter
idea
has to
what
breathe
we're-
it.
What we're getting ready to do. We're all entitled to ask you questions, just like you're entitled to come up and say your piece. Now we're going to deliberate and then we'll vote, but respectfully. Right?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else here want to speak in opposition to the application? All right, seeing none, the applicant is allowed to come up and speak in rebuttal if he would like, or if there's anyone who would like to.
I just like to say, I don't want to cause anybody any heartache. It's just unfortunate, and it's not only my construction that's going on there. We have dealers next to us that has trucks coming in and out all the time, constantly. They come in way, way more than I do. I mean, this is a large business. You have garbage trucks running up and down the road. It's just not my construction company that's doing this. However, I would do everything in my power to prevent any dust from leaving my property, even if I have to get a motorized broom of some type to help control. Whatever I can do to help resolve the problem with my complaints from my neighbors, I'm willing to do. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Joseph?
Excuse me, Mr. Dillard, I had a quick question.
Yes, sir.
When y'all are conducting the rock crushing activities, specifically the rock crushing activities, is anybody wearing respirators or anything of that nature?
No. You inside a machine, there's nobody standing there. You're just loading concrete. That's why it's impossible for you to control the activity of the crusher. Only thing you're doing is picking it up with one machine, dropping it into the crusher by a machine, and the machine just crushing. You can't control them. You can't turn it up or turn it down. It's going to crush the way it crushes.
So no one on site wearing anything to...
It's no one on site. I mean, everybody's in cab. You're in a cab machine.
But what I'm talking about, how about the people who are just working on site generally, going around your premises?
It's nobody. That's what I'm telling you. The truck brings it in,
Okay.
dumps it. Track machine picks it up and dumps it into the crusher. The crusher crushes it.
All right, thank you.
I have a question. I heard them talk about a sprinkler,
Yes.
and you wanted to speak, but you have sprinklers
No,
there?
we hadn't put the sprinklers in place because it's winter time right now and this little dust come. We getting more water than we need. It's impossible for dust to be leaving the stockpile right now.
Yes.
We need some drying, but in the event that it does become dusty, we will have sprinkler systems lying down the fence, and if necessary, if I need to leave them on, if they feel, well, I need to leave them on overnight, I'm willing to do that. Whatever I need to do to appease my neighbors, I'm willing to do.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a question.
Oh, yes, Mr. Roca?
Oh.
Go ahead.
No, I thought you said you had a question for me.
Yeah, well, I have a question regarding, we talk about noise and we talk about the dust. But they also mentioned something about the structure of not only the street, but their houses being damaged because of all the tons that are being dropped. Was there any story about that and how the vibration of the machine is affecting the area?
We don't have any information in reference to any structural damage occurring as a result of rock crushing. Like he said and others have said today, there are multiple big trucks up and down all of the streets, Midway, Old Mansfield Road, and Hearn, that could possibly be causing some problems for them.
Now, I see on the Google map that I think it's just a fence that is around the
Yes.
property. Would a different kind of wall, help with the noise or with the dust, not just a fence?
I doubt very seriously, but I guess we could listen to him. He's more knowledgeable than we are.
We have dust tops that we have already started lining the fence with. The same countertops that they use on the back of dump trucks to reduce the amount of dust that can go through a fence. So we've started lining the fence with dust tops. So it shouldn't, any dust shouldn't be able to go through the fence.
Thank you.
Is that it? All right. All right, thank you. Mr. Dillard? All right, well, call for the vote.
Excuse me.
No, y'all are, we're deliberating now, so. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, we have the rules of order that we need to follow. Thank you, though. All right, so we can call for a motion and then we can discuss or ask questions.
Yeah.
Does anyone have a motion?
Well, I mean, my concern is that, you know, all that I hear is that regardless of what we decide of with the rock crushing, you will still have the problem with the noise and with the dust,
Yeah.
right?
Mr. Roca? I just want to make sure we're deliberating as a board.
Okay.
That's okay. So go ahead, continue, if you want to continue.
Oh, no, I mean, it's just my concern, that same concern that Mr. Dale, I think, had, that, you know,
Well, Madam Chair,
Yes. Mr. Jackson.
I'd like to move to approve the temporary use permit, but not to, I see the staff has asked not to exceed 3 years. I'd like to ask that we would approve not to exceed 1 year, and that understanding that the applicant must adhere to the applicable noise and times of operation and dust control standards that the staff has set forth in the report as well.
And I would second that motion for 1 year.
All right,
Discussion.
yes, let's have discussion. Going back to Mr. Roca's comments, Mr. Colvin's questions about the rock crusher itself, I'm still, what I'm hearing is that the dust is caused by the rock crusher. That's where the dust is coming from. So if you take the rock crusher away and you just use it as a strict I-2, where's all this dust gonna be blowing from? I mean, you see what I'm saying?
There's
No.
dust now.
But why, right, but the dust is coming from where?
No, it's if they drop the rock off at the yard, the only thing that's gonna change for this gentleman is he may not be competitive with what he does, but he can still bring the concrete in, drop it on the yard, and then all the jobs he does throughout the city, it makes all of his materials readily available for him, so he just puts them, because crushed concrete's not expensive, just getting it there is, right? It's just like dirt. Most of the time it's free, but it's just transporting it. So if he has his material there, when you unload a truck, it would create some dust. And when you load a truck one scoop at a time, it creates some dust. So that is what they can do a use by right now without anything else.
And they don't have to have the sprinklers and all that.
Yeah, they don't have to have anything, any of the,
But if you put the rock crushing there, they have to abide by the regulations.
Because the crusher increases the amount of dust
Oh, no
the
significantly.
potential
Right.
that it could. But so what they're doing is, by doing things the right way, they're inviting tons of scrutiny from multiple governing agencies, where they could now just be a real nuisance with zero
Oversight.
or not zero oversight, but very little oversight. And it would be either a complaint to the DEQ or a complaint to our office, which would be the only.
Well, there must be some consequence of a rock crusher separate and apart, or it wouldn't require a special
Madam
use
Chair,
permit.
I'll call for the question.
Uh-huh. You have a question?
No.
He's ready to vote.
We had a motion.
Okay, well, I thought we were deliberating. I mean,
We are.
uh-huh.
Well, if you recognize him and you go for the question, then you just gotta vote
Oh,
on his call.
okay. So is there a vote on the call?
Yeah. And if it passes, then we have to
Okay.
just vote.
Okay, so, how do I say this? So I need to call for a vote on whether or not to
call for the
call for the motion, for the vote on the motion. It's two separate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so anyone who thinks we should stop deliberating and proceed with our vote on the motion, vote yes. Anyone who thinks we should continue deliberating, vote no.
I feel like it won't be heard.
That was confusing.
It's tied.
Your call for the question just got granted.
That's
So it's time to vote.
How can it be tied?
It's not tied.
It's not tied.
When's the vote on
We
against?
haven't
It's 5.
5-4.
5-4.
Oh,
5-4.
Five to
Madam
four.
Okay.
You crazy?
All right,
You
well.
crazy?
All right, so I'll have a motion to approve by by Mr. Jackson and a second by Mrs. Smith with stipulations, I think there's stipulations.
With the stipulation for
1
1
year.
year.
1 year.
Stipulation that the temporary permit be granted for 1 year only.
Right.
All right, if you, all in favor, vote yes, all opposed, vote no.
This is wrong. They don't give a shit about nobody but themselves. You're very wrong.
All right, the next case is case number C619, a zoning request from Shreveport. Caddo MPC is the applicant. So- Is there anybody here to speak on this application?
They're paid.
No, seeing none. Is anybody here to speak in opposition to this application? This is an MPC application, so I'm not sure.
Is this just something that, good question.
Yeah.
Was, to staff, is this just something that got, with the UDC change that we're changing back?
That's exactly.
Real cut and dry?
Real
Very
cut
good. No
dry.
more questions.
They rezoned the property, they requested that.
There was a
Okay.
very large
Existing
tract that was
business.
rezoned, and this part wasn't included, and so we.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right, I have a motion to approve by Mr. Remedies, a second by Mr. Joseph?
Jackson.
Jackson, thank you.
Mr. Thayer.
Pastor Theron. All in favor, vote yes, all opposed, no.
Oh, yeah.
No. I saw the applicant going out in the lobby. Yeah, I guess there's security out there. Oh, okay. All right, so I guess that concludes our public hearing today.
5 o'clock.
That brings us to old business, committee chair reports. Do we have any committee chair reports today? We do need to have our new committees assigned. This would not be old business. Why do we do that now? New business, I guess. New business. I don't know, that doesn't matter. All right, seeing no committee reports, we'll move on to new business. Recommendation report on billboard ordinance.
Madam Chair, I would ask if you would, since we have had such a long meeting.
Yeah, I agree.
We asked that Mr. De Niro Washington would come from Sportran, and he's here, to give you an update on plans for Sportran and
Okay.
the prevailing plans for Amtrak.
The presentation by the CEO of Sportran, Mr. Washington. Sure,
If you would, please.
please. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Welcome.
Good afternoon, good evening.
afternoon.
Thank you all for inviting us. Thank you, Director Clark, for the reaching out and asking me to come. As you know, Sportran has made many changes over the last year and a half now. And with those changes comes a lot of planning and efforts to advance our transit system. Many people don't know that Sportran is actually the regional transit system. Our lines actually cover from the Shreveport metro area down to Mansfield, out to the Texas state line, over to Webster, down to Plain Dillon. It's all covered under the regional transit system. In the past, SportTran has not been able to do the job we should do to serve the entire community. So one of the things we're doing is we're working very closely with the parishes now, Caddo and Bossier Parish, to expand transit service. No, we won't have elaborate transit service like in the cities of Shreveport and Bossier, but providing a few options for residents in those communities is going to be huge for us. But one of the things as part of our planning process that was developed about 10 years ago talked about we needed to do better with intermodal planning. So one of the things that the city of Shreveport did about 10 years ago, they worked with Amtrak and Greyhound to look at how we formed a central hub. That's what we did on Texas and Murphy. And the new intermodal concept has been in place about 1 year now. With that concept, SportTran put together a route study. We went out, performed where was service needed that wasn't currently being provided. So all the routes changed about 1.5 years ago. The first 3 months was interesting because, you know, with any change, there is always hardship. People don't understand. It's my pleasure to report as of last month, when we closed the month out, we saw our first ridership increase in 9 years. So somewhere that study and those routes that we put in place did what the study actually said we need to provide more service. Effective this coming Monday, we're expanding to the first route outside of Kettle Parish, outside of the cities of Shreveport. We're expanding to Blanchard. Our first route going to Blanchard will serve the new business in Blanchard as well as Walmart. So as we start looking at these developments, one of the things that I think working with Director Clark and his staff and this committee is going to be crucial, because we want to make sure that we're looking at how can we provide bus lanes, bus slips in some of these crucial projects. You know, if there's ways that we can encourage that development, I think it's going to be essential to transit service. Giving you an example of what I'm talking about, if you go out to the Uri Drive corridor at this point in time, right where we have all our new shopping centers in our heart, there's nowhere for buses to pull over in a safe place. There is no right of way for citizens to get off. So as we look at how we plan in the future, you know, that's one of the huge challenges I think that we have as a transit system, as a community, that we would have to look at. The overall system as a whole is in a good place at this point in time. As you can probably see as part of the documents that I provide you about SportTran, some of the most exciting news is that we are now under contract. We are purchasing the old Sun Furniture buildings at the corner of Murphy and Texas. So at least 3 of the corners there will be SportTran properties. All 4 of the corners will be city properties that we will be reinvesting in. Part of the Choice Neighborhood Grant, we received a grant to redo the first floor of the Sun Furniture building as a food court, more of an airport-style food court, where we'll be putting out RFPs to have businesses submit in, but also to provide opportunities for the future. You know, as one of the things we're going to talk about in a minute is Amtrak. We had to look at how do we get a true location in Shreveport that we can solidify that we could possibly have Amtrak service come to, and that location is that location that we will be presenting to Amtrak. We know Mayor Walker and Bossier. We have been working together for the last 5 to 6 years now trying to get Amtrak here. He wants to stop in Bossier across from the boardwalk. We also have that location. Mayor Perkins has made it very clear that he wants something here in Shreveport as well, and Mayor Walker wants something in Bossier. So we're going to work for both of those locations. As you see, is when SportTran develop, we're developing around those locations for future transit development and future intermodal connectivity. One of the things you have in your packet before you is an Amtrak study. It's from 2017. So there's a lot of positive things happening on Amtrak. We have put out so far where there's an inspection train we tried to do in 2017. The reason the inspection train did not work was because we currently would have to run on the KCS lines. KCS is not that interested in Amtrak telling them when they want to run their line. So
it's a thank you.
So it's been about 6 to 7 month process that Amtrak and KCS has still been debating that how their service is going to run, because sometimes KCS need their trains on the line when Amtrak wants to come through, and Amtrak says, well, I need to get to Meridian by XYZ, and if I can't get there by this time, I can't do this train. So as they continue those debates, we're going to continue on the legislative front, pushing, working with our Congress to make that happen. The overall positive thing that was happening, and I'll leave my cards and I can forward you the entire study. It's like 233 pages. I didn't want to bring 233 pages for each one of you to read today, but I'll be happy to share that link with you so you can link into it. But the ultimate goal is to put a train from Dallas-Fort Worth to Atlanta, Georgia, not stopping in Meridian. taking the train from Dallas-Fort Worth to Atlanta, Georgia makes it a positive plus train is what Amtrak calls it, which means that state and local agencies won't have to put funding in. We'll be able to use federal funding to make this happen. As you see, the state of Louisiana has the biggest impediment at this point. It's about a little over $50 million that would be $50 billion that would be needed to make this happen. If we were able to work with the states of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Georgia to make this happen as a long distance train, then we'll be able to qualify for federal funding, and those state fundings will no longer be needed. So that's our opening goal. That's what we're pushing. Judge Anderson and Ms. Christina Anderson over in Marshall has been great champions of making Amtrak happen for us. Mr. Clark has joined us there on the MPO board, and you know, I think that's how he kind of got to where I was working with Amtrak. I bring this up at all our policy meetings. We're not going to let it slide. It's something that's going to be an investment in our community. We're going to make sure it happens and connects with your public transit system, Greyhound. And if you did not know, Amtrak Thruway service is now running out of the Sport Train Intermodal Terminal to Marshall Longview area if you need transportation to Amtrak currently. I want to stop now and pause and allow you to ask any questions about your transit systems, Amtrak. I know time's been well spent. So, yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr.
I don't have a question. I want to take my hat off to you. I've watched I've watched what you've been doing the last few months, and I'm just impressed. When we dealt with the Kroger project down on Line Avenue, you guys agreed to put a stop there for buses to take from Southeast Shreveport. We hear a lot of negative things about Cedar Grove, but now people who live in Cedar Grove can catch a bus and go right down to that shop, not just Kroger's, but that whole complex, and be able to get a job and get back and forth. And this business of Amtrak from Texas all the way to Atlanta, I think is just a marvelous idea. And I hope that our agency can continue to support what you guys are trying to do. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I would just like to make a comment too, and our former Councilman Jeff Everson in the Stony Hill area. I'm not gonna take my hat off and knock this off of my head because you may start running. But really want to thank you all for a job well done. Because in the Stony Hill area on Viking Drive where I live, I just get thrills from looking at that big Sport Trans bus coming through. So I want to thank you. I heard you say something about Sun Furniture Store. I was thinking that was going to be Ivan Smith's stuff.
So Ivan Smith is on a month-to-month lease right now.
Okay.
As soon as our contract, we are actually working with Ivan Smith and trying to keep them in the property for like the first 6 months.
Okay.
The next phase to our project is we're going to white box the building. So we'll be looking we're working with the A&E committee with the city of Shreveport to white box the building. The top floor, we have plans for that as well. The warehouse will become a light duty maintenance facility for us. Also, we're looking at some electrical infrastructures. Also, down the road is autonomous vehicles. We're looking at for that location to be able to run the downtown area. And we needed something closer besides the intermodal terminal to be able to make that happen. So as we go forward with those plans, working with the federal government, a lot of this stuff is already in motion, but you know, it takes time. We needed a location to make it happen, and it's my job to make it happen, so we're going to try to make it happen.
Are they high-speed trains?
No, it's autonomous vehicles, which means that as a bus with no driver.
I was talking about the one from Dallas.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Meridian.
No. That's not high-speed trains. Those are high-speed trains in certain locations. Throughout the city locations, they'll run on KCS tracks. So I think they have a max speed of about 70 miles per hour, 65 to 70 miles per hour through the community. When it gets out of the city into the rural areas, yes, it will speed up. But I mean, as well as you look in the packet, there are some like 13 slips in the Louisiana corridor that they will move it off the KCS lines, and that's where you would see it. It runs at high speed. That's the $50 billion project to make that happen.
Any other questions? Mr. Clark?
Just one last thing. Besides thanking Mr. Washington for coming, I just felt that you all were needing to stay abreast of all the transportation changes that are occurring that you may not be aware of. But we've incorporated a fleet of electric buses in the Sport Trans system, I just wish he would just share with you the number that we have now and the number that are proposed.
That's correct. We have, in November of 2017, we did introduce the first electric buses in the state of Louisiana. We currently have 5. We just received a grant. We'll be adding additional buses to our electric bus fleet this year. Right now, it'll probably be additional 2 to 3, but each year we will continue to be competitive, go out for those grants to support your system, and hopefully get electric buses and whatever the next great technology is. We want to be a part of that because I don't want to throw all our bags in. One thing they were looking at heavily when I first came on was a total CNG fleet. We don't want to throw all our bags in one fleet. We want to be diverse. We want to make sure that we're able to get our citizens where we need to get them, no matter what fleet we're driving. But electric buses are the wave of the craze right now in the federal arena. That's what they're funding as electric buses. So we're going to push forward with our electric bus project. The Sun Furniture building will have electric bus infrastructure to be able to charge some additional electric buses there right outside the intermodal terminal as well.
Exciting.
We do thank you, and if you would just give me 2 minutes to say that, working with Mr. Clark has been a breath of fresh air. He has been great to work with. I mean, he has been innovative, not only with SportTran, but just sitting around at the department head table with him, hearing how he wants to engage and work with the departments and find out what's happening in our departments, inviting us one-on-ones and sitting down. It has been definitely a breath of fresh air. Same things happened with Mr. Stephen Jeans throughout the years. He's been great to work with. So you have a great staff, and I just love working with these gentlemen and making Shreveport and our community better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Washington. All right, so there's a few other things under new business.
Madam Chair,
Yes, there's,
We
we have the billboard.
if we may, we can do the billboard and the microcell towers at UDC. We had a meeting with the billboard providers because you directed us to meet with them and try to come up with potential amendments to the ordinance to address some of the problems that were preventing one of the billboard companies from doing some things that they wanted to do. And Adam will update you on that. We had a very good meeting. It's a long range project that we're going to be involved in order to solve some of the problems that we're having with the billboard companies.
All right. That's okay, Mr. Clark. We're going to pause for a moment before Ms. Smith leaves. I'm not thinking clearly. One of the items on our new business agenda is the appointment of the executive director for the year 2019. There has been some people have come to me and said we'd like to go ahead and have you appointed or someone. I'm assuming the vote is going to be whether or not to continue you throughout the year, the calendar year, and delaying any national search for the time being while we have our new mayor transitioning in, and we have a new board member, and we just wanted to take a breath. People were saying this to me, so I would suggest that the board have a quick discussion and vote on whether or not we want to continue Mr. Clark in the role of executive director for the year 2019 and give us a little time to work on our national search and our new our new job description and decide how exactly we want to approach this next time. So anyway, anybody care to comment, or does anybody have any thoughts about that or objections?
Well, I just had a
Yeah.
comment, but everybody here knows that I'm certainly not shy about my opinion. Sometimes even when it's not unwanted, but I've had numerous people, the same people that are in your ear when things don't go their way, and normally they don't call you when things do go their way. They only give you the bad news. But they've gone out of their way to call me and tell me that Alan Clark has really sat down and looked at any possible way to make something happen. He still does everything within the law and within the guidelines, but he always looks for, there's more than one way to solve a problem. There's more than 10 ways to solve a problem. He gives those directives to his staff. He stays on top of those things. And so I just wanted to publicly thank him for, because I know that's not easy. The easy things to do is to show someone the rule book and let them figure it out and come back. And that's certainly, you know, what you get a lot of times in government entities. But I certainly appreciate you spending the extra time with those guys, because I know that job can pull you in 1,000 different directions. And so anyway, I just wanted to give that feedback, because I know people have heard me complain when things don't go right, but I know that just your efforts are not going unnoticed by the community and others.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Remedies, Mr. Jackson?
Madam Chair, in the interest of time, I'd like to move to appoint Mr. Alan Clark as the Executive Director, removing the interim title at least until December 31st of 2019, and then whatever this board chooses to do as it relates to any time further than that, you as the chairman and the board can decide what to do after that, but that will be my motion.
I second it.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Jackson to continue Mr. Clark as the Executive Director, or title.
And as far as discussion, I just wanted to be sure that we were clear, in all fairness to him, as far, and I know we're not talking about compensation and benefits,
Right.
but is there any considerations we need to give, or have we had any feedback from him? Is he happy with everything the way it is, or do we need to visit that next month as far as, you see what I'm saying? Just so we don't leave anything out and we have to come back to the table. I just want to be sure, and I'm not asking you to, on the spot, but I just want to be considerate of him as far as not just something that was just ran down through the.
Sure. No, I want, if I may respond. So I take what Mr. Remedies said to heart. My motion is to do that, to make it the actual executive director. I would then ask that the executive committee, or whoever the responsible party is, who talks about human resource issues that we can't talk about here, would get with him, and if he does not agree to anything that they come up with, he'll remain as the interim or what have you, but they can work that out, and we could know something about it the next time we get together.
Yeah,
If
well,
that's all right.
no, I was looking to place him there, but to allow him the opportunity to say, that's nice and all, but I would like this because I didn't get it as the interim. He gets everything that maybe the previous
I agree with
executive
that.
director did as far as his benefits and things like that. I just didn't want to run it through so fast you missed out on something.
No, thank you so much.
And you
Mr.
didn't. Okay, so I would say that agreeing with what you said, but would the executive committee get with Mr. Clark and bring anything back to us that he would like us to vote on at a later time so we could address it, to be fair to him? That's all that I want.
And I might say, I'm not trying to amend my motion, but I would say my spirit, the spirit of my motion is that he would become the executive director with all of the entitlements and benefits and accoutrements that the previous executive director
Fair
had.
enough.
That's my.
And I second it.
Hey,
We need a
Okay.
second.
Mr.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman,
I think Ms. DeMarteau actually seconded it already,
I did.
but,
Oh, good.
Is there a question?
not that I'm disagreeing with this. I was one of the first proponents to get out on this job, even before we got changed the previous executive director. But we went and said one time before that we wasn't going to vote on anything the first time it came up. Now, I'm not proposing to move this, but is everybody in agreement to do it when it just came up this time?
It was put on the
well, it
agenda
was on the,
when
It was on the agenda last time? Okay.
No.
And I would just say I'd rather do it 2 years than just 1 year.
well, I want to be very careful because we have, in my opinion only, an obligation to make sure that there is an opportunity for people to apply for this job. It is a public job. I don't want to hold it hostage for too long. I think that the discussion that's been had is that the year 2019 gives us time to slowly go through this rehiring process, which is not easy and took a lot out of us last time, to reconsider the job description or the job qualifications, which we heightened quite a bit last time. We may or may not want to keep that the same. I want to make sure our board has plenty of time to talk about this and assess it, and at some point in the reasonable future, I want to make sure that this job is actually open for application, just to be appropriate as a public job, so.
And as a matter, just so we don't set the wrong precedents, I'd like to make a substitute motion that we suspend our normal policy of putting something on the agenda that requires that vote, that requires the.
Okay.
Is that, I think everybody's
Yes,
okay with
think-
that.
Or we could just have or we could just see if we have a unanimous agreement agreement that we will vote on this today?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I was looking for. I have no
This procedure
objection.
is not easy.
Me neither.
I'm just looking for someone not to put something on there later that we don't like.
No, correct. Right, so, so if it's a substitute motion,
That we suspend our normal policy to allow us to vote on this that was
right,
not
on
30
this-
day, given 30-day advance.
correct. Is there
Okay.
anybody who would object to voting on this today? And, if you are, if there's any, if you would,
I'll
if you're in
second it.
favor of taking the vote on this question today, vote yes. If you are opposed to voting
And I-
on this
and I
today-
second his motion.
No, okay, Mr. Meady's moved, Mr. Colvin.
So this is in
Yes.
favor of
Voting today.
Voting
To
Put this
today.
on the agenda
Unanimous.
for today for a vote.
Correct.
So we have the opportunity to object to something.
We're gonna have, poor thing.
Now the actual motion.
Okay, and,
Now for the motion.
right, and
There
now,
we go.
Mr. Jackson has moved, and seconded by Mr. DeMarteau to have Mr. Clark appointed the executive director for the year 2019. If you approve, vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no. All right.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Thank you for y'all's patience. I'm sorry I don't have this very cleanly.
You did well.
Good night, Bessie.
Yeah, I got
Be careful, Ms. Smith.
Would you, Madam Chair, would you all like
I gotta go
to
too.
bring this information back to the
I
next meeting?
Yeah.
Since it's
You
been
gotta
such an
gig.
exhausting
His
day.
wife's flashing the porch light.
Hey, Nancy.
Yes. Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Curtis.
Would you like for us to bring this information back for next
Yes.
month? Since it's been such an
Yes.
exhausting day
I
today.
And you
guess-
and Nancy can talk about it.
Apparently, I'm the only one willing to sit here and listen.
It's not threatening anything if we don't share it with you. There's just one thing I'd like to share with
Yes,
you.
sir. Yes, sir.
Before you dismiss though, because we're gonna share this with the mayor, and I did not want to share it with the mayor until I shared it with you all.
Yes, sir.
We've done an extensive study comparing our procedures with the city of Shreveport and the city of Bossier because of some concerns by some of the applicants to us of the time that it takes to get any cases through the Shreveport MPC office. We have made some improvements that go into effect immediately. Prior to us making some of these changes, minor subdivision plats, conditional use permits, and other MPC approvals took 27 days more in Shreveport than they took in Bossier City. Effective immediately, we have reduced that to 12 additional days in Shreveport because of the things we do. You all get the detailed staff reports that allow you, that the extensive researchers go into, that allow you to know exactly what's going on and make those type of decisions. We were going to be able to make it an even keel, or even swap. The only problem is that these rezonings and subdivisions that go before council have to go through 2 readings, and that means it takes 2 additional weeks. Without the 2 additional weeks, it would have been exactly. But those are things that are going into effect immediately. We will be changing the dates when applications have to be submitted to us, and those things will make it like a 6-week period in order to do that, where it's an 8-week period now. So you will be seeing some major improvements in the amount of time that it takes to get things through the MPC staff.
All right, Ms. DeMarteau?
Yeah, where are we on the My Government Online?
That, if I'm not mistaken, and I was involved and I sort of removed myself from it, but I'm thinking that it's supposed to go live in March.
Yes.
And once it goes live, it's going to even improve
It's gonna improve our process.
our process
Yeah.
even more.
Yep.
I mean, it was important that we heard the mayor talking about streamlining the MPC process, and we immediately went into streamlining the process. And it's going to be a much smoother process. It's going to operate much quicker.
Thank you. Yes. Excellent.
And we are in the process of hiring an additional zoning administrator, not zoning administrator, but that might be a thought. Hiring a zoning inspector. Hiring a zoning inspector, and that will be able to speed up the process even more. We've already gotten involved with the chief of police and the mayor's task force, and making sure that when we go out and do sweeps and when we go out and do grass walkthroughs and so forth, that zoning is well represented in those activities.
Excellent. That's very exciting.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Jackson?
I just want to say, Mr. Clark, that the only reason I made that motion today is I found out we got our money back.
Yes, sir.
So now you got something to manage.
Yes, sir. And it's good to have something to manage.
It's good to have money.
It's good to have money anytime.
Yes. All right, so we are going to then defer the cell tower UDC recommendation discussion until next month, and the rest, and the billboard discussion?
Yes, we'll bring that back, and we'll be able to do it at lunch, and it'll be much more
Is
relaxed.
anybody here for that?
Yes.
What? Is anybody in the room here for either of those two discussions, the billboard or the, about those two?
Yeah, come on back.
That's Daniel Duncan from Lamar.
And Joe Kane.
Joe
Paid to be here.
Kane that was from Lamar. So they've been working very closely with us, so they know exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, I just hate to waste your
Are
time.
y'all on the clock for where you work? You getting paid for being here?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right.
We're going to have to meet again anyway, so we may have additional information by February.
Okay, well, we still have the director's report and public comments section.
Committees, your committees.
Yeah, and my committee assignments, which are just proposals, I wanted to check with y'all about it before I, are there any comment slips for public comments?
No.
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 Committee.
Yeah, any comment slips on the thing? I guess not. Okay.
Anybody here?
Just the
Oh,
one
not
for
in-
the, just for the case.
Just for the case.
Okay,
All right.
all right,
See
all
you.
right. So, anybody want
Hey,
to,
brother.
we're ready to adjourn, y'all. Somebody needs to move. To adjourn.
to adjourn.
Second.
All right.
Good job. Yes.